I want to like to take the opportunity to thank my dear friends from David Miami, the agency responsible for the creative brilliance of the work.
That's great work. And what comes, obviously you needed to use real people. This was not going to be a casting call. And what comes from that, I think, is the authenticity. And the authenticity that is absolutely critical in undertaking any purpose-driven marketing initiative.
Absolutely.
Because if it's not true to the brand, you will be called on it.
Yeah.
So the next one that we're going to talk about is if any brand is a patriotic brand, it is Budweiser. I mean, the colors on your can are red, white, and blue. So could you talk a little bit about how you got involved with Folds of Honor and specifically saluting the military and what that program is about?
That's right. I mean, Budweiser has over a century connection to the military. So over the past 10 years or so, we've been working with this organization called Folds of Honor. And basically what they do is provide scholarships to the families of wounded or fallen veterans. So we believe that that's a worthy cause that very much connects with our purpose. And that's, to your point, the cause that we've been supporting for these many years, $14 million in scholarships that we as Budweiser and Anheuser-Busch have donated. And it's a cause that, again, we're committing to continue supporting for the long run.
So what are the potential pitfalls of this? So many brands on the environmental movement have been accused of greenwashing, that it's not true to who they are, and they set themselves up in social media for a tremendous amount of criticism. Have you seen a downside to this or a potential risk to the brand? Have you had to combat criticism in social media channels and say, no, this is what we've been doing for a while? What are some of the risks that you face?
I'll tell you, look, a couple of things. Both these examples connect very much to what we do every single day. We employ thousands of veterans. Water, critical part of our business. So it is very, very authentic to our day-to-day business. We've been doing it consistently for the past many years. And it's interesting to see that in a divisive world that we live in today, there are a few things that everybody can agree on. And nobody will disagree that supporting people that are risking their lives to protect our wildlife is a good thing to do. Nobody will disagree that supporting people that need clean drinking water after getting hit by a hurricane is the right thing to do. So, we see and we measure sentiment around these campaigns that is extremely positive, ahead of the benchmark that we have in any other campaigns.
So is that your primary way of measuring results? Are you looking at brand sentiment, NPS, or are you looking at awareness of your efforts with Folds? Are you looking at your awareness levels and actual results related to water? What's your primary metric?
Looking for earned media rate, how much of this content really truly engages, how much people are talking about it. We look for affinity, we look for completion rate in specific content pieces that we put out, and of course we look for sentiment. Ultimately, we're looking for a story that connects with our purpose, is widely shared, and that evokes a positive reaction and sentiment around the brand, simply said.
Let me ask you, what is you mentioned David in producing the water spot, which was the Super Bowl spot. What is the role of your agency partners in identifying the potential causes, in articulating the purpose, in, most importantly, in telling the stories that you're talking about?
Critical, right? I mean, all of the incredible work that we've been putting out and all of the stories and even identifying some of the causes, I can tell you that in the water example, David specifically has played a key role. They brought that story forward and told us, well, we think this is amazing that you guys are doing it. You should talk about it. So it's great to have partners that understand the brand, understand the challenges we have, and almost work as an ongoing brief, let's say, that allows them to bring proactive work to the table and really think the brand with us on our side of the table versus waiting for that brief to come in. Of course, we have that for specific assignments and very specific tasks, but more and more we believe that immersing your agency partners, truly immersing your agency partners in your business problems is leading to much better collaboration, much better work.
I'm going to ask you a question that may be a little bit unfair because we didn't talk about it before and because it's not your brand. If you look at Budweiser, which is steeped in patriotism and Americana and so forth, and then you look at Bud Light, which is steeped in humor and always has been. Could Bud Light credibly take a similar purpose-driven model and convey that messaging as well? And if you say, sorry, that guy's next door, that's fine.
No, they absolutely could. I mean, any brand can. I mean, there's a truth that is there, what was the case for Budweiser. The truth of this brand was already there. Mm-hmm. We just needed to dig deep to find it, take the dust off the label, and then celebrate that. So any brand has that story, Bud Light or any other brand. Mm-hmm. Specifically to Bud Light, the story of friendship, which they celebrate across all of their work, is extremely powerful and could serve as the canvas for that sort of purpose-driven marketing.
Thank you. Let's go back to Folds of Honor for a second. One thing I noticed about the work is it's long. It's not a 30. It's not going to fit in a 30-second slot in the Super Bowl. Tell me about how you arrived at long-form storytelling and what the process was to convince everybody responsible that, yes, we need this broader canvas to tell our story.
That's right. I mean, we threw away the rule book, at least to try and understand. And the rule book was, don't try to tell a story that's more than 60 seconds, even in social media. And what we found out by challenging that model was what we already know in this room, which is people are always looking for a great story. The power of a great story cannot be contained in a 60-second, in a 3-minute, 3 hours. I mean, as long as you tell the story as it should be told, your audience will follow. And that's what we found by pursuing this model of long-form storytelling, high production values. We found out that people follow, and they have time, and they will take the time to appreciate a great story.
So please talk a little bit, and then we'll show the work, about the genesis of the spot itself, the story, where it ran, and how you tracked that, and if that, again, was primarily sentiment, or you were looking at views and shares, and what were the primary metrics, right. And then we'll show the work.
So we're now going back to July 4th of 2017. We ran this campaign with Folds of Honor starting Memorial Day. We're inviting consumers across the country to buy one of our packs and contribute to the cause. So by July 4th, we wanted to show the country the impact that collectively we were able to do. And to do that, we selected, out of the many, many stories, we selected one story of this girl that got this scholarship. And we showed that story and the impact that scholarship had in her life. So I would say let's see it, and I'll come back to talk a little bit about results.
That's really nice. It's a beautiful, emotional story. I think the clincher detail, and from a filmic perspective, is Adam Driver's heavy swallow right at the end. I don't know if you saw that. So tell me about long form. Where did it run? How did you measure it?
Purely social media, 100%. And I can tell you that if you look at the social media reach and the level of conversations we generated, this particular piece beat the amazing Super Bowl spot that we had just that year with the immigrant story of our founder, Adolphus Bush. Outstanding, outstanding work. And this was able to generate even more conversations, positive sentiment, PR headlines from coast to coast. It was interesting when the conversation started to flow. Haley made one comment as feeding to the conversation, and that of course was like throwing gasoline into the fire, right? Because again, to your point, authenticity is very important. This is a real person. The selection of Adam Driver as the spokesperson for this particular story was also purposeful, because he not only is a successful actor, but he himself is of course a veteran, so he has credibility to talk about this. So the combination of the long form, the story, the purpose of the message here led to higher levels of reach, higher levels of engagement, and it was a Super Bowl moment, if you like, for us in the middle of the summer.
Taking place entirely over social media. That's great. Well done. You had mentioned the origin story with Adolphus Bush as a Super Bowl spot. And at the time that came out, people talked about that as a rebuke to the election and the talk of immigration, but it wasn't. It had been either in the can or certainly in development long before that. And I think one of the most interesting things. There's a notion of brands as activists taking a political stand, but that's not what you're doing. This is brand as purpose, not making a political statement, and as you said, making statements that really, who's going to disagree with honoring, a kid with of a veteran and veterans' families?
That's right.
So you've consciously chosen, even as the patriotic Americana brand, to not be overtly political.
Yeah, and I think it's again going back to our truth, right? Beer is bringing people together from all walks of life. That's what we stand for, right? That's intrinsic to what we do for a living. So we don't believe that it is our place to comment on where the politics of the country are going. But again, it is very much our place to lead with action, to celebrate issues that we're passionate about, to celebrate causes and champion causes that we're passionate about. That is very, very much our place. Going back to the story of Super Bowl last year around our founder, again, it was an amazing story, an untold story on this brand, a 140-year-old plus brand. One of the nugget stories that had never been told. And again, it fits into the thread of the stories that we're talking about here, because Adolphus Busch personifies everything that this brand is about. Risk-taking, hard-working, passionate about dreaming big. So he kind of set the pace for what we're doing in present day.
He established your values.
That's right.
So I read today a headline, Apple put out a press release that 100% of their energy use in their manufacturing, not manufacturing plants, but in their organization is renewable energy. And I understand that you have a sustainability story as well. I was hoping you could share that with us.
That's right. I mean, we'll announce next week in the US, again, intrinsic to our business, to the way we brew. We believe that we can take a more active role in the renewable space, and that's exactly what we're doing. So I'm very, very proud to say that from April onwards, this symbol, renewable, 100% electricity, will show up in all of our Budweiser packs, and that's a statement to the fact that we will be brewed with 100% renewable electricity from wind power, which is, of course, for a brand as big as Bud, a huge commitment. And that's the cool thing about all of these stories, is reframing the conversation that big brands are bad, right? Small brands are good, big brands are bad. Well, there are things that when we're talking about impacting the world at this scale, that you can do more effectively and with more reach if you are a big brand. So we're bringing the conversation back to what big brands like Budweiser can do to positively affect the world and the way they do business.
So even if you aren't political, you're not afraid to take take on controversial issues. This, in some eyes, could be seen as one. You also have a program with Lyft. I was hoping you could talk about that a little bit.
That's right. I mean, responsible drinking, making sure that people get home safe is, of course, again, very, very connected to our business. So we have this partnership with Lyft to lead with action, distributing codes when we know people go out Friday nights, Saturday nights, across main urban areas in the US. So we're allowing, not only talking about how important it is for you to designate a driver to drink responsibly, but we're also helping you practically to make it easier to get a safe ride home with the partnership with Lyft.
There's one more that I want to talk about that you had shared with me. There was a guy in New York who retired a few years ago, and some people kind of liked him.
I heard he moved to Miami.
Yeah, exactly. What can you tell us about your effort with Derek Jeter and this Buds for Two?
That's right. I wanted to bring that story, to bring this different story that not necessarily connects with social responsibility, but that have everything to do with brand purpose. So again, celebrating those who raise the bar is exactly what this story with Derek Jeter is about. So we're back to last year, May of last year, the number 2 jersey of the Yankees gets retired, which of course is a great honor once, when an all-time great player comes around every other generation. That number will never be used by any other player of the Yankees ever. So, as the longtime associate of baseball, champion of baseball, we decided that that was very fitting that we would celebrate that moment.
Why don't we show this one?
You want drama?
such a great idea, absolutely beautifully executed. But we talk about even something like that, that everybody's going to agree on. It could be controversial. What did the Red Sox fans think of that?
Great question. You know what? It's very surprising that not only this story was celebrated, of course, by Yankees fans,
Sure.
but also by baseball fans across the country. Right? And we saw that in social media because people connected with the human story behind Derek Jeter, right? And even Red Sox fans got to appreciate this amazing story.
That's great. Well, listen, Ricardo, thank you very much. The examples are fabulous. I think you've given us all great guidance on how purpose that is derived genuinely from a brand can be used effectively in marketing.
And I would just add again, I mean, we're seeing all-time high in over the decade in terms of brand health metrics. We're gaining segment share for the first time in many, many years. So it is, again, a proof that engagement, deep storytelling, purpose-led helps drive business forward. Thank you very much.
Fantastic. Thank you. It was great. Thank you so much.